Hello and welcome to the Backlog Battler, an underpowered podcast. My name is Shelby Stokes. This
is Philip Karen. How are you?
This is Philip Karen. That's exactly right.
It is.
I'm glad you didn't forget your name out of the gate. That'd be really awkward. Really not a good way to kick this. This is episode 1 of what could be an ongoing deal. Essentially, what I'm doing here is talking about all the games I played in 2022. And oh boy, there were a handful of them, Phil.
Yeah, there was. It's a pretty expansive list. I will say that.
I think I have a problem. And the problem is games are too good right now. I can't stop. That's a techno song if you haven't heard it. So we're just gonna hang out and talk games. I see you guys are starting to pop into the chat. Thanks for joining us. We saw the Diglet hype in the Discord, just kind of kicking this off and seeing where it goes. Thursday at 8 o'clock, I'm hoping to continue to give you, the viewer, underpowered content of some way, shape, or form, whether it be Pokemon with Eric or Backlog Battler with us or a stream of some kind. Thursday at 8 o'clock and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, we hope to be live. So we appreciate you being with us. So without any further ado, let's talk about the list. Bum, bum, bum.
That's a nice list. Look at this. That's beautiful.
Is it scary?
Wow.
It's a little scary, right?
Wow.
It's a little insane. And I'm noticing as I'm looking at this document that the formatting is off. When I uploaded this slide, the formatting is off, and what I'm seeing is that on the left side you're missing a 2 or 3. So it's a good list. It's 43 games. I'm going to read through them real quick. Okay, so if this becomes an audio podcast, you can kind of listen to it on the back end. They are 12 minutes, Alien Fireteam Elite, Baba Is You, Back for Blood, Chicory, Children of Morta, Chivalry 2, Darkest Dungeon, Death's Door, Deathloop, Disco Elysium, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Divinity Original Sin, Exo 1, Fall Guys, Fortnite, Forza Horizon 5, Gogora, Grizz, Hitman, the entire collection, Inscription, Kentucky Route Zero, Knockout City, Last of Us 2, Life is Strange True Colors, Luigi's Mansion 3, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battler, Mario Party Superstars, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Metroid Dread, the Flight Simulator from Microsoft, you may have heard it, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, Monster Hunter Rise, Pokemon Unite, Resident Evil Village, Sable, Soma, Spelunky 2, Super Mario 3D plus Bowser's Fury, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, The Forgotten City, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands also included there. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, Unpacking, Unsighted, and Windjammers. Whew, that was a lot.
Wow. Dr. Z,
I missed one. Which one did I miss, Dr. Z? Which one did I miss, Dr. Z? See, Dr. Z keeps me honest because he and I play multiplayer games every Monday. And when we do that, sometimes we play some pretty clunky games. And they're actually listed here. Windjammers 2. Dr. Z and I are not good at Windjammers whatsoever. That was not good, Philip. Not at all. It's anime.
Tell me a little more. I haven't even heard of this game.
Okay, Windjammers is probably not something we should spend a lot of time on. It's a 2D fighter with a disc. You're throwing a disc like a volleyball over a net and bouncing back and forth. And Dr. Z and I had a lot of fun playing it, but we are absolutely terrible at it. So why did I show you that big list and read it to it? Well, if you're an audio listener, you heard them. They're there. Secondly, we get to the end of the year, we move on, and I feel like we haven't given enough attention to the games that I think should be dropped from your backlog, moved up your backlog, or it's one of those games where it's like, do I really need to take the time to go back and play it, right? All those questions come to mind. So my goal is to bring you, the consumer, the gamer with not enough time, put the stuff that needs to be on the top of the list at the top of the list and lose the other crap. Okay. So essentially what I've done is I've made 4 categories. It started at 5 and then it became 4 because I don't have the heart to say avoid at all costs, but maybe Windjammers is in that list now that we're saying it out loud. Dr. Z, is Windjammers an avoid at all cost or is it a can miss? That is the real question. So the categories become avoid at all costs, no, can miss, which is dropped from your list, play if, which is if you like similar titles, go ahead and play it. You should play, meaning you should probably play it if you're a true gamer, but it's not really a required playthrough. And number 5 is yes, yes, yes. Yes, it's great. Yes, it's important. Yes, you should play it. Put it on your backlog, number 1 with a bullet. Find a way to play these titles. That there are 12 that fall into that last category, and 10 of those are on my game of the year list. And we're going to cover that at the end of the episode here tonight. So, Phil, I'm talking a lot, and I know I prepared a lot for this show, so I'm just going to keep going. But if you have questions about any of these games, you're like, what the heck is Windjammers? Come on in, baby. The water is warm.
I mean, hey, the list is expansive, the thoughts are deep, and we are going to tackle this one category at a time.
I don't know how deep the categories are. I don't, but hey, we're going to roll with it. So let's move on to our first list, which is no, never play ever. I'm not man enough to put anything on that list. I think one of these games will work for everybody. I don't want to get yums.
Check it off. Yeah. Category bucket is gone.
Okay, see how easy that was? We're already through the first category, Phil. Isn't that amazing?
19 minutes later. Yeah, that's exactly right.
That is exactly right. So now we move on to our second category here, which is it's the should play category. No, it's not. It's the can miss category. These are items that I think that you should remove from your list if they're there, and the formatting is messed up. And Dr. Z, you're not gonna like one of the games I'm going to talk about here. I've listed 3 of these. The games that I think you can drop from your backlog, first and foremost, is a game called 12 Minutes. Yeah, do you know what this game is, 12 Minutes, Phil?
No, I have not ever heard of this game.
So this game got a lot of hype because it had Vincent D'Onofrio on it, and a lot of like really talented actors came in to 12 Minutes, and they're like, we're going to do something like we've never done before. And essentially you walk into a room, 3 minutes later, the cops show up and shoot your wife or something like that. And essentially what you're trying to do is you are in like a 5-minute time loop, and you're trying to choose the specific path to solve the murder and save your wife all at the same time. This game got me so excited. I was like, this is going to be a game that's going to be amazing. Everyone was ready for it. Everyone was excited about it. You get in and play it, and there is 0 direction in this game, which means you can kind of go around and interact with some things. And like, say you make the right choice, when you restart the loop, there's not great indicators to tell you to go down the path because this is the next thing that you're going to do.
I see. So it needed a little bit more rails than what they provided.
Yeah. It needed like a ton more guidance because you were trying to go through this and solve it and really just throwing random clicks on your mouse and being like, well, I don't know, maybe this is the way to do it. This game made me frustrated because it feels like it is so close from being good, and it just does not get there. So if you want to play this game, I would say do not put it high in the backlog. Like I said, this is the category that is can miss. Drop it from your backlog. If you are going to go and play this game, use a walkthrough. Use a walkthrough. It must happen. You should. You
heard
must.
It here first.
There is a crazy story at the back end of this game, and it's buried behind some mechanics that are not a good game mechanic. And it's really disappointing because it had a lot of potential.
It seems to me like it's just from looking at the screenshots and the trailers there that it's very similar to that of like what they were trying to do, like what Heavy Rain did, where you're sort of in this story and you're in this narrative and you move it along, and just like they left it too open-ended. Heavy Rain did a good job of like when you had the built-in reward of when you did something correct, that the story organically moved along to the next stage, and it feels like this didn't have it.
Talk about the voice actors. The voice actors, that's from Dr. Z, and Eric comes in and says walkthroughs are perfectly acceptable. I agree with you. They are acceptable. But in this case, like, you shouldn't have to use a walkthrough just to figure out what to do next. And it's one of my things with point and click adventures that drive me crazy, because it's like, oh, I'm supposed to use the comb with the fire hydrant? Oh, didn't see that coming. So that's my frustration here. I thought the voice acting was really good. Yeah, I mean it was good. I agree. I would say the thing that kind of bugged me about the voice acting was it's very repeatable, right? But at the end of the day, it's a loop game. You're gonna hear that loop. Come on, and go differently. So back to the list. Other games you can drop from your backlog. Aliens Fireteam Elite. Dr. Z and I played this. No bueno. Stay away. I did not like it. Darkest Dungeon, you'd probably like it, but it's really too in the weeds for me. It's a run-based RPG mechanics. Yeah, thumbs down for sure. So keep that one off your backlog. And Dr. Z, here we go. We're about to have a fight on this one. The next game listed here is Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium is one of the games that I was most excited to hop in and play this year. I was jacked. I was ready. My body was ready. The final cut came out, and it's basically a top-down RPG where you're interacting with people and trying to solve a crime. And this game was beautifully voice acted, beautifully rendered, but it was impossible to play. Dr. Z, this thing is impenetrable, buddy. You can't figure out what to do. Bad move, bro. Uh-oh, there's about to be a fight going on in here. Dude, no. This game, keep it off your backlog. Like, I want to say, like, if you're into this thing, but I don't even know what this is for. Like, you go in, you're going insane, and you're trying to like solve a murder, but the guy is a drunk and he's having like internal conversations with his head in his head. Phil, don't play this game, please. Whatever you do.
That's so funny. I mean, what's your beef with it? Is it a similar thing where it doesn't have enough rails or the story's incoherent? I mean, what is your biggest quip with
my
this game?
beef with it is its lack of direction. It feels like you're supposed to solve a murder, but you have nowhere to go. Like you're just like, go, no, go wander around the town. And then they add a mechanic to where every conversation you have with a character spends time in your day. So all of a sudden you're in this position where you're like, well, I got to go investigate things, but I can't just walk around and talk to everybody. Oh, wait, what did Sarah say? I've already had this conversation 3 times. Now it's 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm out of time. I'm just like, dude, no, get out of here with that nonsense.
This is a situation where the game is becoming too real and it's starting to feel like real life.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Dr. Z says because you're hammered and you don't know what to do. Yeah, so what is this, Dr. Z? Is this like the Alcoholics RPG? Is that what's happening here? From now on, I can only play this game when hungover, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Other games on this list that I suggest you drop: XO1, Fall Guys. I don't know if you want to talk about that one at all. I know you played that a little bit, but man, I didn't like that.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm too old for arcade games nowadays. I mean, the jump, dive, the randomness in that type of game is just like you're not going to will your way through that. Yeah, I played it for about an hour and a half and I was done. I'm just not interested.
That was me too. Yeah. I couldn't get into it. And it was crazy because if you remember, it was like 2 years ago, whenever the pandemic hit. I don't know whenever that happened. It doesn't matter. But like everyone was talking about this game. Like this was a cultural milestone, or not, but it was a cultural moment. Everybody was like, play Fall Guys. It's amazing. And then I got in there and played it obviously a couple of years afterwards. And I'm like, what the heck? This is garbage.
Well, I think that they wanted to take the approach of creating something that was very similar to like Mario Party, or I mean, it's a party games, right? Like everyone's different, but we talk about this a lot when we talk about games where if the randomness, the order randomness mechanic is too far off, or there's too much randomness, it feels like you can't win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you just have a bad run, if you are in a bad position, you're just screwed and you just lose and you waste 30 minutes of your time. And as we get older, right, we spend a lot of time thinking about how valuable our time is. So this is a definitely no-go for me.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't touch it. And maybe it was a social experiment, like when it came out, and that's what drew people to it, but I do not get it. The next item on this list of things that you should drop from your backlog is a game called Kentucky Route Zero. This was, I think, a Kickstarter game or something of that nature, and it's a point and click adventure. It has a really great vibe. And what happened was they came out with episodes like every 18 months or so. And the people that love this game were really loud. They're like, you need to get in and play this game. And eventually, what happened in 2022 is that the entire story dropped at once. So all 5 episodes dropped at once. And that came with interludes between episodes and stuff of that nature. And I just could not get through it. I think it may be a style choice for me. I don't know if I can get through a point and click adventure. And there's some point and click adventures that are getting a lot of buzz here at the end of 2022. That's going to force me to play a few more of them. But this one did not work for me at all. Did
Yeah,
not
I mean,
work.
I don't know. It's not really my. It looks kind of cool. I mean, a lot of times these games with this sort of art style, it's initially intriguing, but unfortunately these days it just, I don't know, can't sustain my attention.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel the same way. So I mean, if you're on the waiver wire, I can't recommend that. It feels long and slow. And I think that if in a different world, if I were to come upon this and play it one episode at a time, if 18 months in between, maybe I would have got through it and loved it. But playing it all at once, it was too slow. Too slow and too much. Another game that I'd say drop, Knockout City. It's a multiplayer game. It got some buzz. It's like dodgeball on crack with friends, which sounds good and was fun for a few sessions, but didn't stick around. Microsoft Flight Simulator is an amazing thing. And if you like that thing, you know it. It is absolutely amazing. Not for me. Not something that I'm going to spend much time in. Pokemon Unite is on this list. I know that we got Casey on this cast. I hope he's listening now. Pokemon Unite, you can just skip that one altogether. Cool. I'm trying to smoke him out of the chat. You think it's going to work, Phil? Maybe, maybe not. Pokemon
Yeah,
doesn't need to do
he's
everything.
lurking. He's lurking.
He's lurking. He's lurking. Dude,
He's
he's just
lurking.
firing. He's re-downloading the application on his Mac right now.
Yeah.
Little shout out to Fortnite last night when he was trying to download things. Anyway, I agree, Eric. Like you say, Pokemon doesn't need to do everything. I completely agree. Like this MOBA was cool. I enjoyed it. I didn't like the freemium hooks that they put in front of me in the beginning, so I was kind of put off by that. I don't think they're gross or over the top. I just don't think a MOBA made for babies is necessary in this day and age. I think if you're playing a MOBA, you're already playing it. Windjammers we talked about, and Shiv 2. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, it's a pretty diverse list. I will say that
Dude,
you didn't hammer one genre too hard. You've got some multiplayer games, you've got some smaller games, you've got yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive list.
and if I would have got hammered, I might actually like Kentucky Route Zero some more. But hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. We're moving on to our next category, which is play if. Yeah, titles that you like. If you like these titles, you're going to like something similar in this category. You like titles that are similar. So these are games that are very well crafted. I think that they're very well made, but I don't think they're doing anything that's like, yes, this is amazing. This is a must play experience. Children of Morta, Death's Door, Divinity Original Sin. That one's for Eric. This is the year that I actually dropped that title from my backlog. It's been sitting there for years, and it's a very dense D&D experience that I couldn't quite get into. Forza Horizon 5, Grizz, Life is Strange True Colors, and the one that we're going to feature here today is Luigi's Mansion 3. Now, I got a lot of content talking about Luigi's Mansion. The reason I want to bring it up here is because this game is like on all of the top Switch lists of like, you should play this. And I think that this is a very, very cool game, but I don't believe it's doing anything that's like revolutionary. And part of what Mario has done so well is it's taken these different subgenres and it's really innovated on them in a very unique way. Luigi's Mansion 3 feels very iterative on Luigi's Mansion 2. And though it's doing some very cool things, a lot of them feel like a one-trick pony. In other words, some of the levels are really cool, some of the art design is really neat, but at the end of the day, it's not doing enough differently to make it something that you should go out of your way to play.
I'm surprised this made this higher on your list. I was expecting this to be on the previous category. So the fact that you elevated this a little bit said that there's enough there, because I know that we had several podcast episodes this year where you were not you were begrudgingly finishing this game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did. And like, I think if I were to play with my kids, I probably would have had a better experience. But it was one of those things where it's like, this is on my backlog and I got to get through this. So I played it solo, and I think that there were better experiences for me out there. So enough said.
Yeah.
I covered a lot on Luigi's Mansion. So if you want to go back and listen to that, you can. Dr. Z calls out there's a lot of similarities between a Divinity and Disco. I agree. I agree. And for them both to be low on this list maybe isn't, it's supposed to be what it's supposed to be. Mario Party Superstars is a game that I hopped in for the first time this year. Have you played this one, Phil? This is the one on the Switch, right?
I haven't played it, but my son's played it at a friend's house, so I've seen a little bit of it. I kind of have always been a softie for Mario Party games, but I haven't personally tried this one.
Yeah, I mean, we got this for the fam, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to take off. This is going to be absolutely amazing. And I think that it's good in that sense, but I don't. It's not like the definitive, like number one with a bullet Mario Party experience. I think that they could do something where they incorporated a lot more and made it a lot more streamlined. It still feels that it has that old school clunk of like the slow game board mechanics. So it's kind of an interesting scenario because I thought I was expecting more iteration out of this new release personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just like a one trick pony, and you're like, I've had this experience, and the mini games are pretty much the same, and put it in the bag.
Yeah, put it in the bag. Put it in the bag. The next game, Franklin, come at me, bro. This one is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. I think this is a very good game. At the same time, I think that there are other titles that are a little bit more innovative as a gaming platform. I know I'm killing you, Dr. I'm killing him. I'm killing him. I think that the combat gets a little repetitive towards the middle and the end. It I feel like I couldn't get a flow with this game, but if you're looking for a Marvel story, like this is a really, really cool entry. So if you're any in any way attracted to like Marvel in any way, this is a very cool title. And with the way it came out and it was a single player experience, I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to grab this thing on the cheap. And I think it's pretty neat to look at the graphics and the inner workings, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's compelling enough to be at a top 10 list personally.
There you have it. I mean, I tend to avoid any sort of superhero Marvel movie made video games that have to do with anything that's already had a movie about it, even the characters. I tend to avoid at all costs. So this is a big, giant, fat avoid for me as well.
Yeah, and I think part of it is like these characters aren't new, right? Guardians of the Galaxy does exist, the movie franchise specifically.
Yeah.
So what they're
Yeah.
trying to do is they're trying to like take different, like they're making their own characters that are very similar to the movie characters, but they're different. But I don't think they're different enough to be like, that's my guy. And they're more samey and they're retreading a lot of old territory. The
Yeah.
dialogue between the characters is great, and I think that this could be a really cool title. Like if they made a second one, for them to come out and execute at this level is pretty impressive. But I don't think it's like a number one must play. The characters are better than the movie. Oh, really?
Wow.
No.
Wow. That's
Franklin
a big
secretly
statement.
loves Chris Pratt. I can tell. I can tell. He's a Pratio friend. He's a I'm just imagining Franklin throwing things at his TV right now. Other games that I think you are more than welcome to drop unless you're super interested are Monster Hunter Rise, Spelunky 2, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that came out this year. I thought it was short. It was fun, but not iterative enough. I played Tiny Tina's Borderlands 3 DLC and then Tiny Tina's Wonderlands this year. And this is a game that I could have probably put higher on my list. I had so much fun with this title. I thought it was absolutely a blast. And Dr. Z and I played this game for probably 2 months. It's a looter shooter. It's very social. It's really good. And I think that part of the reason it didn't get like the top tier like notoriety that it got is because it's very similar to the other Borderlands games, but I think it's a really good one. I think it's one of the better ones. And as I'm talking about it, I'm thinking maybe I should have moved this one up the list, Phil.
Well, this game, even though I haven't played it, has a special place in my heart because this when you were playing this game, this is right when I sort of joined on with you guys and the team. This was one of the first few podcasts that you and I and Dr. Z all partook in, and it was also our first short that we
Yeah.
ever created that blew up and kind of set us off on this insane journey that we're on now. But I don't know. This is still on the maybe play for me. Is this only for Switch or is this all
I believe it's
consoles?
all consoles. And if you were to pick it up on Xbox, I'm sure Dr. Z and I would hop in with you and play because it's fun, man. Like pound for pound, it very much reminds me of Fortnite, and that you can just hop in and you know you're gonna have a good time. Like their battle arenas, you're shooting, you're dodging, you're using your powers, you can respec in three different categories, like we see in a lot of action RPGs. I think it's really well made. Uh, I don't think it's like I don't know where Borderlands goes, and that's a bigger conversation for maybe another day. But I don't know how they could have made a better game in the Borderlands universe. But for some reason, it just doesn't feel like something that you must play. You know what I mean? Like it's really good, it's a lot of fun, but it's not like this is blowing my mind. You know what I mean?
Well, I tend to be, yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you mean. I tend to be somebody who is, um, I uh, I tend to be an anti-sequel person. So I tend to not like to play games that are sequels of other games, just because, to your point, when people start getting bored with games in general, they want like more guns, more things, more, and then it gets to a point where you're like, there's I can't offer you anything else. This is the
Mhm.
system, this is the mechanic, this is the world and the environment. These are the characters, and you'd have to, in order for them to go somewhere else, they would have to tell a more interesting story, right? Like you need to come up with a more compelling story for people to play because you've kind of hashed everything out at this point.
Yeah, yeah, and in this title specifically, I know people really didn't like Tiny Tina. Comedy in video games is a whole nother conversation for another day as well. But like, I thought the humor was pretty good, and I don't mind the character of Tiny Tina. Like, I know she has a little bit of a grating voice, I think, for some people, but for me, I thought the humor was good. So I'm excited to see what they do. I just don't know what they do, to be honest with you. The last game on this list of play if you like it is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. That remake is so dang good. It's so good, Phil. It's so good. I don't know
I
if you
was
have
I was
any
wondering
like
I was wondering what this was, whether this was a remake or not, because I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so this is a remake of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, new graphics, same controls, all the levels mashed into one package, and it is just fun, man. It has the old school soundtrack, so like you're skating through the levels that you're like, "Oh my gosh, I know this from like another life. This is crazy. This reminds me of
Yeah. Yeah.
Kool-Aid and Icy Pops from the 90s." And it's like what's the Superman song? Anyway,
Three Doors
yeah, the
Down?
Superman song.
Oh,
No.
I think no, that's
Yo,
not who
yo,
it
yo,
is.
yo. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, heck of a
That's a
song. Heck
great
of a song.
rendition.
Is that right? Is that right? Nailed
Yeah.
it. So we move on to our next category, which is the should play. These are games that I believe should be on a backlog, but probably don't have to be expedited at the top of the list, right? These are games that I think are really cool, really innovative, doing something in the gaming space, but aren't like you have to go out and play this, and this is something that you should do to be a quote unquote gamer. Um, First one is Baba Is You, a puzzle game, which is super difficult. I think that the puzzle mechanics are brilliant, but it's too smart for me. Back for Blood is a fun multiplayer game. That would be one that I would love to revisit with you and Dr. Z at some point because I really enjoyed it. You're shooting
Yeah.
zombies.
What could be
The
better?
next one we're going to feature. Yeah, the next one we're going to feature is a game called Disney's Dreamlight Valley. Disney's Dreamlight Valley is a game which is basically Stardew at Disney. And this game, for some reason, it did not pop off at the Game of the Year discussions like I thought it would. I thought this game would be big like Stardew was. It has all the trappings of a Stardew game, and it's doing it very, very well. My sister is full on addicted to this game and loves it like crazy. It it amazes me how well Disney has like finally got into the gaming space and done some good stuff. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool because it's bad. I think that's got to be Casey logged into our account. That who else would that be, right? Dreamlight Value is good. I think if there's a great game there, I have to say, I think that this game is going to get more notoriety in this coming year, personally.
Well, I never played the Stardew game, so like, what's the synopsis? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
So you were set up in a playfield that you can kind of see in the visual aids here, and there's a bunch of overgrown trees and shrubs and rocks, and then you can go out and you can chop down the trees or break the rocks, and it gives you materials, and then you talk to the different characters that are all Disney characters, and they're like, "Bring me 3 berries," and then you give them the berries, and your friendship increases, and then as you gain points, you gain more abilities to cook things up, create things in the world, whether they be houses or whatever the case may be. And then lastly, you can also unlock new characters. And that's where I think the brilliance of this game comes in. Because what they've done is they basically put, let's call it 20. I don't know the real number, but let's call it 20 Disney characters in here. And then you walk into the place where you recruit new characters, and there are areas that have doors that you can't even access. So they're going to turn this into an ongoing DLC living, breathing game. And I think it's brilliant. Like, I think Disney has a ton of IP to farm. And I really don't think that it's the last that we're going to hear or see of Dreamlight Valley. I think it's going to continue to blow up.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's a resource gathering game. I think if I was younger and I had more time, I probably would be super invested in this. But I get to a point now where if I have to do a bunch of chores, then I'm not going to be about it. But it looks to me, to your point, like they're only going to be expanding it, and they're only going to be growing it out and adding more areas and adding more things to do and more quests and more grinding. And
Yeah.
this is just the framework at this point.
And they did the thing where this is like one account, all devices, right? So you can log in on your PC, on your Switch, or on your Xbox. One world, your world, manipulate it from wherever you'd like.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. Like I think that this game is going to get a lot more notoriety. I hope it does. This is a game where I feel like I can hand it off to my kids and be like, play away, enjoy yourself, and then they can get lost in that world with characters that they know and love. So
Cool.
yeah. Yeah. So going through this list, games that you should play but aren't required. Gorogoa is a cool game. Really liked it. It came out about 5 years ago. I think it's really neat. It's short and a cool experience and a one and done kind of. Miles Morales, Spider-Man's Miles Morales. I loved that game. I really liked it. Resident Evil Village, also really liked that one. These are games that I think are really good, but maybe don't need to be at the top of a backlog list. Sable is right there on that line. Like, in terms of this game specifically, I really enjoyed Sable, and I don't know that I ever had the time to talk about it on the cast like I wanted to. But essentially, they set up a world in Sable where you are able to. It's a huge sandbox, right? This desert that you're seeing in some of the gameplays, it's a huge desert, and you basically go wherever you want. And you come out, and they basically set you up like a young person that's going on pilgrimage. Go and find your way, right? So they cast you off into the desert, and you can choose to either, go and discuss, like, do racing, or you can go and you can collect certain things in a mine, or you can go and negotiate and barter for stuff with travelers. And essentially what it does is it says, hey, go out there, collect 3 of any activity, and then if you want to come back and choose that as your trade, the game ends. Right. So it's very open ended. And this truly is an experience. Like, I think there's nothing like this. And I'm flabbergasted because it left me feeling like, wow, it felt like a huge world, and it wasn't that big. And also the self-discovery and the gameplay is pretty eye-opening as well.
I thought that you were on the fence about this game. If I remember correctly, in like August, you were like, I kind of don't like this game.
And I think that's why it landed where it did on this list. Like that's why it's
Yeah.
in this place of like it should be on, like you should play it, but it's not required reading. And the reason it's not required reading is because I did have to really force myself through it until I got about 75, 60% of the way through. And then I was like, okay, this is an experience. It's almost like it's almost like a TV show that you know is really slow, but it's doing something, so you should watch it. You know, it's like The Sopranos of video games. You heard it here first, guys.
Quote it. Someone clip it.
Clip it, clip it. Sable is The Sopranos of video games. Very cool. Unsighted is another game that I truly liked. It's has some unique time mechanics. It's kind of a Metroidvania, but there's also essentially you're in a dystopian robot future and everyone is running out of power, so you got to pick and choose where you're going to allocate your resources. In other words, your friends are going to die and you got to choose which ones you like the most. And it was a really compelling game mechanic that I enjoyed. I did not pull a clip for Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, which I meant to and did not. So my apologies for those of you watching out there. This game is pretty cool in my opinion. I really enjoyed this game. This is essentially like a 2D. Which I actually might have this somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. I did. I downloaded it, but I didn't put it in the right file. I'm going to pull it up real quick. You don't know much about Monster Boy, I don't think. And it's not a very like like a lot of people don't really know what this game is, which is kind of why I wanted to put it high on this list.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard of this. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, let me remove some stuff. It's saying I
Oh,
shared too
oh,
many
the trailer.
videos. You don't know my life application. Yeah, there it is. Here it is. Got it. So this is Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. It was inspired by a couple of games that came out in the 80s, 90s. This was Metroidvania March, and that is exactly what this game is. It's a 2D Metroidvania, and essentially what you do is you make your way. You can see it's a 2D battler, and you make your way through the map. And as you progress through, you gain the ability to change into different creatures, and the different creatures allow you access to different places in the map. And it has one of those things where, you play through a map and then you want to come back and farm it for all its resources. And then they have armor sets that you can build out in the back as well. This is a really, really cool game. Like, I enjoyed this game quite a bit. And I think that it should be considered for some individuals that like this type of game. So if you haven't played this, please, please, please take a look. If it sounds remotely interesting to you, I would definitely check it out.
This is surprising to me that this made this high. This does not look like a game that lands high on your list, just based on the graphics and the character models. So for you to place this so high up,
I don't know
I'm
if you're saying I
pleasantly
have
surprised.
standards or if I'm stuck up, but either way, yes is the answer to that. Yes is the answer to that. I really just kind of want to give it a shout out because I feel like it got overlooked at Game of the Year. So here we go. Here is my list, my top 10 plus two. Oh my gosh, look at this formatting, Phil. This is ridiculous. Imagine it says 1 through 6 on the left and then 1 through 5 on the right for a grand total of 12 games that I kind of want to go through here. I am going to keep this discussion on these games short. What I want to do is I want to talk about why I think these games are important to be on anybody's backlog list. And why don't we start at the bottom and move our way up and it kind of just go one by one. And so if you've played these games, jump on me. All right, Phil.
Yeah.
Unpacking is a very unique game that is short and it basically tells a story through a very innovative gameplay style where you are putting items in a bedroom and it's telling a story about a young individual who's trying to find their way through life. And in doing so, I think it explores storytelling in a very passive aggressive way almost. And I believe that it is just one of these games that you don't see very often, but it's so innovative you could never do it again. And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, interesting.
I think it's brilliant. Chicory is also on this list. This is a game that really deals with the artist and trying to feel good about what you're putting out into the world and being good at your craft. Brilliant game, fun gameplay. If you haven't played Chicory, I would put it high on the list. The Hitman collection. Now you've heard of Hitman a little bit, right? You know the Hitman.
I watched a lot of your streams
Dude,
this year with Hitman.
Hitman is really
There
good.
was there was some streams. We
Hitman
had some streams.
Hitman is so good, and it's really revolutionized the stealth genre, in my opinion. Super excited to see what this team does. I don't know when you're watching this or when you're hearing about this, but they've announced that they're going to do a Hitman World collection, which is all these maps and like a new play it all in one spot collection, which is really cool. Last of Us Part 2. Where are you at, Enrique? Last of Us Part 2 is a heck of a game, but it hits you right in the feels, and it's a lot about violence, and that's something. So, yeah, be prepared. Bring your big boy pants if you're going. Metroid Dread. This is a game on your backlog, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think I have added this to my backlog actually.
Yeah. What compels you about this game specifically?
Honestly, I just haven't played a Metroid style game in a while. But so if I'm gonna play something like that, I think Metroid Dread would be it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really good one of these, and I'm really excited to see what the studio does next because honestly, I'm a sucker for a Metroid game. I'll play any Metroid for the most part, like it's or in any Metroid Vania, excuse me, is something that gets me excited. It's my cup of tea, and this one is a very good one of those. Mario's versus Rabbids is on my top 10 list. Can we talk about this for a hot second?
This is honestly, I'm just gonna say this is something I can communicate on that the fact that this is on your list is absolutely absurd. It's absurd that your initial takes on this were I can't even do it. Just do what you're gonna do. Just say it. Like the fact that you have other games lower on your list and this one is in your top 6 for the year.
Yeah.
For the year.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
This game is amazing. This game is absolutely amazing. It's a Switch must. It really is. Like I think it's important because it's showing you that Nintendo can actually do a top-down battler, and it hasn't done one in a very long time. You can talk about it being there in the past, but all that talking, it's not top 10. Yeah, that's right. Dr. Z can't believe it either. He's like losing his marbles.
Not top 10, top 6. Okay.
Top
that's
6.
That's one away from top 5. That's one away from top 5 for the year. That's great. Good for you. So what made you turn around on this game?
What made me turn around on this game? What made me turn around on this game was the fact that it allowed for a lot more it allowed for more unique unique ways of going about problems. So in the beginning, I was trying to tackle the same problem in the same way with the same team. And I was like, these are going to be my 3 mains. I'm going to play it like this. And I got really frustrated because this was not working. So I just kept, okay, more skill points. Boom, boom, boom. I'm barely scraping by. Okay, let's do it. And then as soon as I started switching out characters and playing with those characters, I had little to no penalty to do it, which was one of the first moments that I'm just like, oh, like I can really just play this however I want to tackle this. And when I started moving those pieces around and attacking the different problems with different character sets, it clicked in that this game is very well made because it gives you the ability to change strategies with little to no penalty and allows you to feel like you're doing something that's absolutely brilliant. And in the beginning, I didn't feel like it was as smart as it was trying to be. I felt like the game thought it was smarter than it was. And by the end of it, I was like, okay, you got me. You're putting me in some scenarios where I really got to change things up and change my gameplay. And that was endearing to me because that's not what you see in Mario titles. You see them in, well, I guess that's not a fair statement. There are Mario titles out there that force you to do that, yes. But with a Mario title that looks this cute, you don't expect to see that. And it's definitely there.
Well, this is right. This is the foundation of what makes every game great is that you don't need all of this innovation. You just need limited resources and the ability to solve problems in unique ways. Your
Mhm.
brain just loves that. So the fact that you were able to get, what do you think contributed to that? Do you think it was the level complexity or the balance between the characters? Which mechanic do you think added to that the most?
For me, I thought it was, ooh, good question. Contributed to what exactly?
Contributed to like your feeling of freedom to kind of tackle any problem any way you want, because it could be level design where hey, I have the freedom to move with little to no penalty. It could be the balance of the characters to where I've had experiences where I have to use two healers.
Mhm.
And then you're like, this is the meta. And I often find that in BR style games where it's like, this is the gun meta. You have to use this or you're going to lose. Right. So having that character balance can add to the feeling of, I have all these tools. Which one would I like to use?
Yeah, yeah, and I think like part of the reason that it really grew on me the way it did is because I was able to change the way I was using the characters and maybe just dropped a few that I thought were going to be very powerful that weren't. And learning those new character types and integrating them. By the end of this, I was just rolling people. Like it was I got a build that I was just like, okay, nothing can hurt me now. And to go from this place where I'm barely hanging on and barely beating these levels to like dominating and no one can stop me is such a like I figured it out. I solved the puzzle. I made it happen. So I think when I was waning on this game was early when I really and maybe this is a problem that I have with Switch games specifically. And that's probably a topic for another day. But like, when I'm playing a Switch game, I try to get in, play 20 or 30 minutes and get out. And when I'm playing games like Fire Emblem that I'm currently playing, or Sparks of Hope, not Sparks of Hope, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battler, I need to give a little more time and thought into what I'm doing, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And I think that shows true in some of the Switch titles that I've played through. And this was one of them. As soon as I bared down and worked through it, it was like, no, this is a great game. This should be on every Switch.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. Number 5, The Forgotten City. I talked about this on the cast a little bit. This is a game that is basically a Skyrim mod, and it's a time loop game. And the reason I think that this game is important is it shows you that you don't need the best graphics to tell a top-notch, compelling story. And The Forgotten City does that in such a unique way that I walked out of there or finished that game, rolled credits, and immediately fired back up and played the other 4 endings because it was so unique, yet so compact and beautifully assembled in such an intricate fashion that I was just blown away by this game. Again, not a game that's on the top of everyone's lists. I wish it got more. I wish it had more notoriety than it has currently. I talk about that game and then I talk about this next game, and there's some very similar speaking points on these two games. Soma was one of the games that I played this year that really made me go, oh my gosh, this experience could not be told in any other way. For Soma to be a game that is 5 to 7 years old, and for me to come in and play it and still be so immersed in the story is pretty cool. And also, it has that sci fi back and forth where you're basically transcribing your consciousness into a robot. And then now, is that robot a person? Is their consciousness? I love that stuff, dude. I love that stuff. And this
Well,
plays right into
that's
that
the thing.
hand.
Right. That's the thing, right? Is that you're either going to play a game for some good competitive game mechanics that allow you to solve complex problems, or you're going to play a game for a compelling story or philosophy. So any sort of game that can cause you to question that or challenge you to think, and you find yourself thinking about it afterwards. And I know that you felt this way about the Forgotten City the same as you felt
Mhm.
Soma, where it's like you're thinking about the story and the narrative, like this is this is writing at its finest. This is storytelling at its finest because it's interactive. You have to show that you understand the source material in order to move on to the next section of the story. And so it's I think it when done well can draw deeper connections to the source material.
Mhm. Yeah, agreed. I think they're both great games, and if you can find a way to play them, I definitely would. And they're going to be on the cheap, right? Soma's a 7-year-old game, and I know the Forgotten City is a mod, so it doesn't have the huge $60 price tag that maybe some of them do. So it definitely plays on my book. Deathloop. I talked a little bit about this in our Game of the Year discussion, and I don't want to spend too much time here because I know we've already had these conversations as time spent. Deathloop took the Dishonored series and made it palatable for me. And I have tried to work through those two games, and I could not get through them to save my life. And Deathloop was like, oh my goodness, like you were actually able to make a game that I'm interested in, and that is something that I think is very, very notable. The vibe and the color scheme in this game is just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I felt the same way as you about the Dishonored series. I just couldn't do it. I don't know whether it was like oversaturation of the genre at the time with a bunch of different games coming out with this, having your two hands and being like, I don't know, but I couldn't get through those two games either. So it's good to see that they, what innovations did they add to this that made it more palatable and less repetitive?
The thing that I think that changed the entire game for me is that they took the penalty out of the Dishonored franchise. Like as soon as you would wake guards up in the Dishonored franchise, it would essentially cause me to reload, and I'd try to play that like perfectly stealthy.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
game is kind of like, okay, you messed up, but you're going to come back and replay this day anyway, so who cares? And I think after playing this game, I could probably go replay Dishonored and have a lot better time because I think the way they designed the games were to be able to go hot and enjoy like the gunplay and the mechanics and not necessarily sneak around. And this game, the way it's set up, encourages you to go loud at times. And I don't feel like Dishonored did that. It never encouraged you to go big. It was always like, you want to sneak in and be an assassin because that was the character, that was the model. And I tried to play within those confines that they set up. And that's why that game didn't work for me. And that's why this game does. So I think that this is a brilliant bit of game design. The way that they set up the flow of the game is brilliant. Inscription is my number 2. It's a card game, and it's a card game that's a single player tale. And I think that when you think of card games, you don't go to, oh, this is going to be a single player narrative based experience. And for them to jam those two genres into one makes it something very special in my mind.
Yeah, I watched you playing this, and you felt engaged the entire time, and it was interesting to see as you figured it out. Are you just now catching up on the chat? Yeah, there's a whole sidebar with all of them about who's actually my father, as if I am Luke Skywalker.
Well, do you need to get like a
Uh,
23andMe test go on, or what needs to happen here?
well, I mean, clearly something's going on. Like I said, I would ration myself as Luke Skywalker in this case, with HG apparently being my father, or my daddy, as he put it. But this game looks, you were engaged from the beginning, especially once you started figuring out the mechanics of the game. I think in the beginning, like that first 2 or 3 hours, I think you can tell that we're getting older because when we start playing something new, it's just like, even for me, I feel this where it's like, oh God, I don't want to do this. And then like you go, okay, I'm gonna have to invest some time, and then you end up really loving it. But yeah, it seemed really cool.
Yeah, and it's one of those games where you go and you start playing it, and it's not as, I'm sure it is a super deep card game, but they build it in a way where you're going to break the game. Like they set it up to where they're like, okay, players gonna eventually figure this out and break it. And if you go back and watch speed runs of this, like there's a way to like basically beat the game out of the gate, and then the guy across from you is just like, nope, you can't go any further. So all that to say, like, if you know the secrets, you can get through it a little bit quicker. But I think that this game is a masterclass in card games, and it's one of those card games that I actually finished, which, doesn't happen very often, Phil.
Doesn't happen
Doesn't
very
happen very
often.
often. And my number one with a bullet, I went on for a while about it last time. The game is Fortnite. the game is Fortnite.
Who would have thought, man? Who would have thought? I will say that last night, from my perspective, right, I wasn't planning on getting on. I was planning on going to bed early last night. And it was one of the first times where everyone from the Discord was on and talking about the same thing. And you and Casey and HG and you guys were all playing. And then I jumped on and, for probably a 4 hour section of time, we had a full party of four playing the same game, talking about the same game as older gamers getting excited about the same thing all at once. And, that's something that I have talked about many times, which is this search for community and how everyone's kind of splintered into their own areas. And it just made me feel like it gave me some of those old nostalgic feelings of playing games with friends.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like I was gonna try to pull it up here. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, but our stream from last night, like that moment where we were in, and I think it was before you hopped on with us, Phil, but essentially like Dr. Z and Casey jumped into a truck, and then all of a sudden they soup the truck up and they're just rolling through cities, knocking down buildings. And they're like, hop in the truck. So we hop in the truck and zip across. And I think that's what made Fortnite so special for me this year, is that it was a return to social gaming, unlike an experience I've had in the past. Like it reminds me of like modern warfare vibes from like back 10 years ago, right? Everybody's on, everyone's playing, everyone's just online talking stuff and getting kill counts. And it's amazing to me that this game is getting the notoriety it is. And I was telling Dr. Z this last night before we hopped on the stream. If this game was called Fortnite 2 this year, I think it would be on every game of the year list.
Yeah, I mean, I really attribute, right? I really attribute the success of this game to two things. I attribute it to number one, the Epic's ability to adapt, right? Because every single time you think Fortnite's about to be dead, they figure out a way to, with some big social event, or that with it if this halfway through this year, it was the introduction of the zero build mode, which is the only mode that I play because I'm old and I'm not going to build. And then that mixed with the time to kill. So,
Mhm.
right, the time to kill in this game is perfect. Every game you go in, you're going to get a couple kills, or you have the potential to get a couple kills. And whereas other games, I don't know, I have like a 0.1 KD ratio where I'm getting killed 10 times before I even barely pull off a kill. So this game has done an amazing job. I agree with you 100%. It's just a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, definitely. And you think about other games that are kind of in this same spot that Fortnite is right now. You look at Overwatch and Overwatch 2 and how everything was bungled there this year. And you just question, like, do we need I don't not want to give this game kudos because it came out 5 years ago. Because the
Yeah.
game that came out 5 years ago is not this game. And I don't feel that I need to justify why I'm putting it on my list. But for anyone that's like, oh, Fortnite, that's old school. No. Like what they're doing is they're innovating a product, and there's a reason this is the model for multiplayer game right now. There is a reason. So if you haven't tried it out, I would suggest it. If you play this game and you want to get it to its full potential, play with friends, play with somebody that's played before, because that makes this game exponentially more fun. Like being able to get in and jam with people is where it's at. I know that HG's in the chat, and he's a solo player. Like he plays more solo than I do. If I can hop on this game with a friend over going solo, I know that my excitement level and enjoyment of this game will jump 10, 20%, or 10,
Yeah.
20 fold more accurately.
Yeah. I mean, some of our most exciting moments that we talked about the next day, even, Dr. Z making comments in the Discord today of like, oh, I was thinking about that, having those 3 back-to-back wins for in a row for you guys before I jumped on and spoiled the party. Just like it's generating some of that hype again and getting people something to talk about. I don't think that it's a game that you take a break from other games that you're playing to come play this game. You know, you'll play a really heavy single player game, or you'll get really entrenched in some 50-hour campaign of some RPG that you're playing, and then you go, you know what, I just need some lighthearted fun on a Friday night with my friends to play some Fortnite. So for me, it's definitely elevated beyond being a kid's game into being just an all-around good game. I mean, obviously I have my complaints. Give us unlimited sprint. Just give us unlimited sprint and get rid of fall damage, and everything is fine. But that's
Phil
neither
loves
here
fall
nor there.
damage. Yeah, we're making t-shirts. Phil
It's
loves fall
absurd.
damage.
It's absurd.
No, and it's a good one. You know, and be careful with that one, because you'll jump in for one match and be like, oh yeah, sure, you know, I can do one match. I need to turn in early because I got something going on tomorrow. But yeah, cut to 1 a.m. this morning where we were still pulling in wins. And Casey, I don't know if you watched the end of that stream last night, dude, but after you fell out, we came back and won that victory. We got that sweet, sweet victory royale right at the end of the night.
Yes, we did. A couple of reses and just mowing down 6 teams in about 1 minute. It's a story, man. And then you come back and you say, "Oh man, we were out of it in quads, and we res twice, and we were just hanging on by a thread, and then we
And
mopped up like 10 kills in a matter of 60 seconds."
yeah, and then like that game specifically, like I went down, you rezzed me. I went down again, you rezzed me. I had 0 kills. And then I'm pretty sure I got like the last 4 of the match. I'm like, all
You
right, I
did.
got to carry because this guy's been carrying me the whole time. And then to pull out that number 1 spot was pretty epic. So anyway, so that's really all I had. I know that was a lot of talking, that was a lot of games. I think if I were to do this over, I'd give you all more gameplay trailers. Hopefully there was enough for you. But you know, I don't know what this backlog battler program is going to be. Phil and I have some ideas on how we're going to kind of go back and forth. But essentially, what I want to get at in this program is I want to really get down on the gameplay experiences that are out there. There's a lot of noise in the market. So if we can actually tell you, hey, play this, and hey, don't waste your time on this, then that is where I want to operate. And to be honest with you, that's why my list of 50 games gets produced every year, is because I look at all these lists and I think, oh my gosh, I could be missing something that's the next experience. Oh my gosh, the platform and the media of video games is evolving, and I want to make sure that I'm seeing all of the different evolutions that are taking place. And that's why I love video games. I think there's no medium like it, and it really excites me, and it excites me in regard to where this channel is going. And that's kind of what I want this backlog battler to be. I think we're gonna kind of look at a list next time we're on and talk about what 2022 had in store and build some sort of list, and then start chipping away. Sometimes you're gonna hear me talk about games like you have tonight. Sometimes you're gonna hear Phil and I just like wax about what we've been playing. And other times I think we're just gonna hop on a stream and say, hey, let's try to knock out It Takes Two or Diablo 4, or let's do a couple sessions of Fortnite, you know, wherever the wind takes us. But at the end of the day, the end goal for this show is to make sure you guys are spending your gaming time in the right spots. So that's what this is going to be about.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think it's exactly what I would have said. So it's perfect.
Cool. Well, we're gonna hop off here. We're gonna wind this episode down. I can see Casey is thirsty in the chat for some Fortnite. It's 9:15. I want to check on my wife. That's a strong maybe. I'm not gonna promise we're gonna play Fortnite, but it's also not out of the question. And this is exactly how last night went. And I played for 4.5 hours. So, oh, the gaming vibes is strong in this channel right now, Phil.
Don't look now. Don't look at your watch.
Don't look now. Don't look now. We appreciate you guys. If you want more of us, we do a Tuesday podcast, and we're going to keeping this Thursday slot going. Next week, Eric is going to do a Pokemon Power Hour. I said it wrong, didn't I? Pokemon Power Hour? Pokemon Hour. Thank you. I'm adding alcohol to your show, Eric. My apologies. So come back next week at 8:00 on Thursday if you want to be with us. We're gonna be cracking packs and talking Pokemon. We appreciate you. If you want more of us, follow us on socials, the YouTubes, wherever the case may be. We're also on Twitch, TikTok, and throwing up YouTube shorts left and right. Thank you for being with us. I think we're going to make this an audio version. Maybe, maybe not. Casey, let me know your thoughts. If it is an audio version, give us stars. Otherwise, like, subscribe. Love y'all. Thanks for being with us tonight. We appreciate you.
Cheers.
That's a wrap, guys. We're out. Bye. Under Pokemon Power Hour. That doesn't sound right either. Bye.